In these problems, we're going to be using something called the quadratic formula, and this is a big deal if you haven't used it before. It's super useful for finding solutions to quadratics that you can't factor. And the quadratic formula is going to work every time. The quadratic formula looks pretty complicated. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And right now you're probably scratching your head a little bit, but I'll tell you what the a, b, and c are, and it won't seem that difficult. You notice we have this plus or minus in here. This is because you're going to get two possible solutions for a quadratic. So the plus is one solution, the minus is the other solution. Now, where do these a, b, and c come from? Well, the a is the coefficient of the x squared term. The b is the coefficient of the x term. And remember, you got to bring the signs along. So if this is a negative 6, for example, times x, the b would equal negative 6. And the c is just the constant term. So you find all those numbers, you plug them into this formula, crunch it out, and you've got your solutions without having to do any factoring at all. Now this first one, they're asking us to solve for x, and we've got f times x squared plus g times x plus h equals 0. Well, you should recognize that. That's the form of a quadratic. And all they've done is replace the a, b, and c with f, g, and h. And that's all we have to do in our quadratic formula. So this guy is a, this guy is b, and this guy is c. So let's try subbing them in. In our quadratic formula, it starts with negative b. So we're going to have negative g. Then we have a plus or minus and a big square root. Then we have b squared, so that's going to be g squared minus 4 times a, that's f, and c is h, so 4fh, and that's all over 2a, a is f, so that's 2 times f. That is as much as we can do with that one, so this is actually solved for x in terms of f and g and h. Let's try one with some real numbers. So we've got x squared minus 8x plus 3. So what's a? Well, you might be confused because there's no coefficient on here. So the coefficient by default is 1, because 1 times anything is itself. So we'll call a 1 there. The coefficient of the x term is negative 8. Remember the sign, that's crucial. And then, of course, c here is 3. Now we've got our formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we can start subbing stuff in. So I need a negative b. That's a negative 8 plus or minus the square root of, now I need a b squared. Well, negative 8 squared minus 4 times a, that's 1, times c, that's 3, all over 2 times a, so 2 times 1. So there it is. We've subbed in our a, b, and c. Now we can do some arithmetic here. A negative 8 is, of course, a positive 8. 8 squared, or negative 8 squared, is 64. And then 4 times 1 times 3, that's 12, so minus 12. And that's all over 2. So 64 minus 12 is going to be 52. So we've got 8 plus or minus the square root of 52 over 2. And let's see, 52, so that's 8 plus or minus the square root of 4 times 13 over 2. Now I can pull that 4 out and have 2 times the square root of 13. So this is going to be 8 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 13 over 2. And now I can simplify this fraction. I've got two terms here, the 8 and then the 2 times the square root of 13. So the 2 there will cancel. The 2, dividing each term by 2, the 8 becomes a 4. So we get 4 plus or minus the square root of 13. Whoops. And those are our two solutions. So that's an introduction to using the quadratic equation to solve quadratics. My name is Larry. I'm a teacher at EdVision's off campus. It's an online project-based school in Minnesota. If you're interested, you can find us online at lovethisSchool.org. Thanks.